I'm legally obligated to tell you, I ain't a real doctor.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of Three Pillars Cast. I'm joined
Hello.
by Alyssa, who you just heard, aka how I know you, Mickey.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a long time since I've even spoke to you.
It has.
The way that I think that I tend to keep up with people is just kind of like on the side, like be it like, oh, this was a funny tweet of theirs, like, yep, I still acknowledge that you exist. We'll open up with my current favorite thing to do that I'm going to be doing, and that is fruit talk. So at the start of every podcast, I want to just find out what's your favorite fruit, and then
Okay.
we just kind of talk about it.
All right.
It could be funny, it could not be. I don't know. Like, you do whatever you want to do. It's just it's fruit related.
Okay. Well, I watched part of the first podcast that you just posted,
Yeah.
but I do fancy a banana. I enjoy the potassium, especially after workouts. I think favorite fruit though, I would go like pineapple, but only if it's like fresh.
Oh yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I
None of
mean?
that canned nonsense.
No, it's just nasty. Like where you can like just drink the juice. Oh, it's so good. But like, yeah, like super classic. Oh, apples and bananas. But it was so funny because I was waiting for you to bring this up. Because the guy that you had on last time was like Zach or something. But
Yeah.
I have a friend who has like an allergy to apples, and I've never heard of anyone else ever having it. And I was like, this is fake. This isn't a real thing.
Well, apparently it's a real thing.
For a
I
very small group.
I had just straight up never heard of it before. I'm just like, well, it's apples. Like,
Right.
that's like being allergic to water.
But yeah, no, I love pineapples.
I'll put pineapples as number 1, and I'll put bananas in honorable mentions. How's
You know,
that?
because like a pineapple is really, really good, and a banana, just like it was mentioned last time, it's so versatile. You can like
Yeah.
eat it straight up, throw it with whatever. Pineapples, pina coladas. I mean, I guess those are
Oh,
good. You
yes.
know, hey, but
Hey, alcohol.
yeah, my favorite fruit.
I like me some fruit talk. As I was just mentioning, it's been a while since I talked to you, so I guess just how's it going in general? How is 2020 for you? Is more so the question.
um, it's not too different than what I was doing regularly. Sadly enough, I think the only thing is my work shut down for a bit, so we were off of work for like 7 weeks,
Oh
and it
yeah.
was like kind of nice the first week and a half because it's like, oh, I'll pick up some old hobbies, like get back into drawing for a bit, and then it was like, wow, this is just really boring after a while. But it just like I reconnected with a couple people, and like I have a bunch of people on like Discord that I'm friends with in real life, and we just get on like every night and play games. So that
Heck
has not
yeah.
changed. It's wake up, go to work, play Among Us, yell at each other, call it a day.
Yeah.
But no, not nothing's changed. It's
It
just I got a
was.
car. I got a new car.
Oh,
Yay.
nice.
That's it.
I
That's all I
mean,
got.
hey, that's all you can hope for, I guess. Like, because
Right?
I mean, I feel like largely, if not for all of the like political discourse this year,
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
like otherwise it's a pretty good year for me, honestly.
The problem is that if people are can't be stupid in private. Everybody posts about how
Yeah,
stupid
everyone
they
tweets
are.
about how
That's
stupid
the
they are.
problem. They're like, "Yeah, this is illegal, but I'm gonna stream it on Facebook." And I'm like, "All right,
Yeah.
well."
Okay.
But like, yeah, the whole COVID thing, like, yeah, whatever. It sucks, but it's
Mhm.
more so amplified by in the customer service industry when you're like, "Please, ma'am, I'm begging you, stop pulling your mask down to sneeze. I don't
Yeah.
understand."
That doesn't. Yeah, you're defeating the whole purpose.
Right?
That kind of leads into, because I had a thing after that was just retail. I guess I'll call it retail stories which
Man,
I very well know
I
from
made a
you.
bullet point list.
You did? Okay, so you're
I know.
prepared.
Let me just like tear this paper out. Well, because I remember some of the ones that you said of like that one kid in your store that like set off the terrible smelling spray.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, there was
Yeah,
like
long
a
way
group of
back.
kids that like they were messing around. This is when I worked in a sporting goods store. They're just messing around over by all the hunting stuff, and it's like kind of close to closing, so we're just kind of like, this is normal, whatever. Uh, all of a sudden we start hearing like yelling and like almost like not panicking in like a terror kind of way, but like panicking like oh shit, what do we do? What do we do? Kind of thing. And we go over there, and they had sprayed dough attractant on one of the kids' like hoodies. So it's literally just like canned dough piss. And yeah, that was interesting. So they
Yeah.
their parents were definitely mad at them because we like essentially bribed these kids. We were like, hey, if you pay for that, we won't tell your parents. And they're like, okay. So they paid for it. Then we just threw it out because they're not gonna keep it. We're not gonna let them keep it either. Uh, and then when their parents showed up, we still told on them. So yeah,
But you got your money.
yep, exactly. We didn't. There was no
Uh,
loss for the product that way.
no, it sucked, man. But it just like sits in the store. So thankfully I haven't had that issue
Yeah.
in the hair cutting business yet. Um, but like for us, for a while, we just recently opened them back up, but we had like our restrooms was like staff only because we're like, man, with everything being the way it is, like we don't have to like clean this consistently
Oh
after
yeah.
every
Oh yeah. You're
person
gonna
just
have
in case.
to disinfect it every single time someone
Right.
uses it. Yeah.
And like for us, we're still like clean or whatever, but we're not like gonna go in with like hazmat suits. But there is like people just don't read, and it's so frustrating because we had like 3 big signs on the door that are like staff only, do not enter, and here's why. And people just stroll on back there and like pop the door open. You're like, no, please, like please come back. It made me so like I was more confused because people send like just like straight dementia patients, I guess, into the store because we'll tell them something and be like, yeah, okay, and then ignore us
And
and
just
keep
do it
walking.
anyway.
Yeah, so this lady, she walked in and we're like, hey, you can't use that. She's like, oh, okay. Walked back, got into the restroom, used it, walked out, and said, hey, your thing says out of order. And I was like, oh my god. I was like, yeah. And then she was like, as she's walking out, she's zipping up her pants. It's like, I'm gonna go use the restroom next door. And I was so confused. So she leaves, goes next door to the restaurant. I guess uses the restroom again because she takes another 10-15 minutes and then comes back and is like, I'm ready for my haircut. And
Oh my gosh.
it's like, this is a Twilight Zone.
We just told you that it's out of order. Don't go in there.
And this, like, our manager, another lady comes in, and our manager was like, hey, just by the way, I was like, I know you said you want to use the restroom. It's out of order. And she's like, oh, I don't mind. And just marched back. I was like, what do you mean you don't mind?
It doesn't work.
And
Yeah.
then she walked in. She's like, oh, no, it was super fun. It was very orderly. I'm like, that's not what we meant.
Like she expected just stuff to be strewn all
I
over
know,
the
like, we're
bathroom.
just, like, throwing toilet paper. But
Yeah.
what else do we have? I was like,
Yeah,
what
what
else is
else
on
do
the
we
menu? I have, oh my gosh, this one I have nightmares about.
You
But
do, okay.
so we like since we're franchised, you can like rotate to other stores to help out if need be. I preferably don't want to, more so because I'm lazy, but I also just like don't like the other people at the other stores because they're all kind of it's almost like every Starbucks essentially is the same, but it's got different staff, it's got like a different vibe.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I went to help out at another store, didn't want to be there. We have this thing called TB Side, which is like a really thick cleanser that we spray on the chairs in the stations after each client.
Okay.
But if it gets on the floor, it makes it like mad slick. And so I was already ticked to be there. I'm cutting this kid's hair. I'm in the very back of the store. It's like 60 degrees. And then his mom is sitting in the middle of like the floor. So she's just staring directly at me. And I step on a patch of this like TV side and slip. And I didn't fully go down because I caught myself by palming her child's head.
Good save,
I just
kid.
like I was so excited because I was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't fall!" And I was like cheering for myself, and then I realized like I'm just clawing this kid, and I like look over at his mom. But the thing is, like, she didn't make an expression, she didn't flinch or anything, she just kept staring, and I felt even worse.
Oh
And,
man.
like, the whole rest of my shift, I was like, "I just wanna go home." But I was also like, the way I hold my, like, shears in my hand, I was like, I could have stabbed this kid straight through the skull
Oh
too.
yeah.
So I'm really glad I didn't.
One wrong move, yeah.
Oh, man. I was like, maybe this just isn't the industry for me. I haven't fallen fully yet. I've slipped several times, but I've always managed to, like, not all the way collapse because it's a long way down for me. Yeah, no, we get, like, the weirdest or we have I don't know if you have it in your retail, but, like, we always say, like, "Oh, full moon, you're gonna get the crazies."
Oh,
And it's
okay.
every full moon, we get the craziest people, which is, like, great. But right now, the thing is, like, mullets in the Midwest. Is that all we're
Yeah.
doing is mullets? And kids are coming in, getting their hair permed, and this dude had me he was like, "Oh, put a line through my eyebrow." And I was like, "I don't
Oh
want
no,
to."
not the eyebrow slit.
But
Oh
it's like
no.
it's everybody in their pickup trucks. They're like, "Ah, I love me a mullet, and it'll look so good for the baseball game today." And I was like, "Oh, please stop."
And then they leave in their super loud truck.
Yeah, like, "Oh, I'm gonna take off the tailpipe and make everything just sound as loud as possible." But in front of our door is like, because we're in like a little complex, but people would just be like blasting by, and sometimes people drive so fast, like the air pressure opens our door.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy. It's fun. So you'll be like, "Oh, welcome," because you hear the door chime go off. You're like, "Oh, it's just a car. All right, whatever."
All right, that wasn't awkward at all. Okay.
Nah.
Oh.
But where my store is, there's like from elementary to high school students. So we just get like a ton of kids from, 5 to like 18. So it's an array of just little maniacs. But like their parents will be like, "Oh, Johnny couldn't go to school today because he had a fever, but he really needed a haircut." And you're like, "Thanks, ma'am." And it's like your kid just like sneezed all over my
Yeah.
stuff.
Now I got a sick kid in my chair.
Right. And then they're like rubbing their nose. They're like, "Could I touch your clippers?" I'm like, "Please, no." But anyway,
Lawsuit.
any more
Lawsuit.
questions? Dude, oh, I would love to, because people really be taking stuff off my station all the time, and it makes me so mad. 'Cause I'm like, "You can't, sir. That's like $300. Please don't touch that." And this guy's like, "No, I'm just gonna edge myself up." I'm like, "No, please, that's mine. You just ask me."
I'm being paid to do this, not you.
I
Yeah.
It's like, why would you do that?
Well, who got? I mean, the last thing I think of when I go in to get a haircut is, I wonder what they're gonna let me get away with. What can I do to
Uh,
myself?
and
I
they
don't
really
know.
do like it's interesting. Or like the number one thing we probably get that's like annoying is people just being like, "Oh, it's an expired coupon, but surely you can still use them." Like we send these out like every month. What do you mean? This like this lady, it clearly said like August 13th, and she sharpied the 3 to an 8, and it's like in a different color ink. And I was like looking at it, and I was like, "I can't use this." She's like, "Why? It says 18." I was like, "No, I saw this coupon like last week. I know what it is."
Yeah, I know what the
She's
date
like,
is.
she's like, "This is unheard of." And I was like about to leave. I'm like, "We have your number. You can't just leave. It's $14. Please." Yeah.
Trying to get away with a free haircut because of the coupon. Yeah,
So
that's insane. That's, I mean, I guess that's probably everywhere, but like that's especially Midwest, right?
yeah, it's like it's not that big of a deal. But there's this like my favorite people are the old people right when we open because they'll be standing. It could be like negative 30 degrees and they're standing out just staring into the door
Ah,
30 minutes
yes,
before we
the
open.
old people stories. Give it to me.
Oh, my favorite guy ever. He's not gonna watch this, but his name is Roscoe, and I have the time of my life whenever I do Roscoe's hair because every day he goes to the casino. It
Oh
doesn't
my
matter
gosh.
what time of the day, and he's like, "I'm on my way to make a donation." All right, Roscoe. He'll just sit there, and when we sign people in, we like ask for their phone numbers. I'm like, "What's up, Roscoe? What's your number?" He's like, "Why the heck don't you know?" I don't know. But he'll just like sit there and say like rhymes and riddles, and then he'll just leave. It's like, "All right, thanks for popping in for 20 seconds." He'll just start like cussing people out in like a funny way, and you're like, "All right, bye."
Good old Roscoe.
Oh, good old Roscoe. I have
Quite the
this
name.
old Oh yeah, I know. Like he's a cool dude.
Yeah.
Walks in with these like waist high pants that are like way up to his chest. I'm like, how are you even wearing those? But I I have this old guy that comes to me, and I think he's got to be 87 or 90, and he's really sweet, but like you can tell he's not all there. But whoever takes care of him just drops him off and hopes that he gets in.
Oh.
So sometimes it's like he'll just be standing outside the door, and I'm like, someone's got to open that for him because he doesn't have the strength. But the way that like whoever put the mask on him, it was one of the was it N95s or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
But it was like barely at the top of his mouth and like covering half of his eyes, and I don't know how he could see where he was going. And he walked in there like, "Did you sign in?" And he's just like, "Alyssa!" And I was like in the middle of a haircut. And I was like, "What? What did I do?" And he was just trying to ask for me, but that's all he said. He just kept saying my name. It's like this is like a horror movie. I was like, "Hi, Ron. I'll be with you in like 5 minutes. Do you need help like back to your car?" And he's just like, "No," and just hobbled out the window. And like at some point, somebody picked him up. I assume.
Yeah, there's no way he walked home. Right?
Where I work, you don't get money off the actual haircut because the haircut's so cheap. You just get money from tips. So I really be acting like I'm so interested in people's stories because people like they act like it's a therapy session and they'll just like open up because you'd be like, "Oh hi, how are you today?" And they're like, "My sister died through a car crash and I got a funeral at 2, but I'm gonna go watch the football game at 3." So, and just dropping, you're like, "Wow, really? That's very interesting. Tell me more."
Yeah, I guess you have to tell me more.
Right. And he's just like, "Oh yeah, that's crazy."
How are you today? My wife divorced me
Right.
this afternoon.
It's literally playing a game of Russian roulette because you're like, what is this response? Like, do I either act very interested or like disinterested? Because
Yeah.
sometimes you're like, I gotta stop this conversation from going on, or I'm trying to make the money, so maybe I pursue this for just a
Yeah, you
second
gotta
longer.
schmooze it a bit.
But like this, there was the cutest little boy that came in, and his mom was like, "Okay, tell her what you have," and he was like, "Pajamas," and she said, "No, autism." And I was like, "Oh," and I'm just like staring at this kid. He's like, "Oh yeah, A is for autism." This is like,
Oh my
is it?
gosh.
I was like, "Ma'am, why would you start with that?" I was like, "He was gonna be fine." I was just like, what do I say to that? I was like, "Oh, really?"
Yeah. When
Or
you
like,
think you're ready for anything.
right, it doesn't matter how much you prepare. Or like, there was this, I think it was like maybe a first grader who tried to talk to me about politics. And first off, I don't know anything about it. So I
Yeah.
just, and that's like, they tell you never talk about politics and you never talk about religion. And I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, and like especially in haircutting, right? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, I just gotta, and this kid was like, "What do you think about the president?" And I was like, "I don't, honestly."
I try
He just
not
fell
to.
up. He was just like, "My dad says," it just kept going. I was like, "Oh my god, what's your favorite cartoon?" I was like, "What? Change the subject, please."
Tell me about anything. SpongeBob. You don't watch SpongeBob, right?
I was like, "I've seen an episode of or two." Man, it's like scary because then you can like see other parents looking around. They're like, "Who would let their child discuss the?" It's like everyone's paying attention.
What
I
about
know.
do you have like a haircutting horror story that you wish to share? 'Cause I know you told me some
Oh,
of the
talk
like
about how bad
just
my scales
one.
are. Oh.
I remember one
Um,
about like real nasty scalp. You don't have to get super
oh,
graphic either,
oh,
but I'm
yeah,
talking like
okay.
something like this is so like because
Um,
it's been kind of funny stuff to this point, but like is there anything that's just like I can't believe that I had to experience this in a a hairdresser?
well, there's yeah, and it was recently. So,
Hell
well, I guess
yeah.
not recently. It was probably 2 months ago because we last week just allowed our like store to get back to like shampoos because that for a while that was staying for like full service only since they were doing a lot more kind of like chemical process or
Oh,
whatever.
okay.
They just told us like, "Yo, you probably don't want to be like up in people's personal space doing hair during all this." And like now we can, but this like girl came in and she hadn't washed her hair in I think 2 weeks.
Okay.
And they were like banking on the fact that they could get a shampoo. And it's like, sorry, like we really can't right now. And it was just like matted. So to get it cut, I had to like just soak it in like deep conditioner essentially.
Oh my
But
gosh.
the spray was like, oh, here's a strawberry smelling conditioner. Smells great with like the nastiest scalp known to man that smells of grease and oil. So all of that is just accumulating. And I'm like, as you're like trying to rip her hair open, it just gets worse. And so it took me 35 minutes just to detangle it, like alone without even doing anything else, just to like
Holy
get
cow.
it done. And like as you're combing it, like her scalp is like falling onto your hand because it's just like peeling off, and you're just like, oh my god. So after I get that all brushed out, cut it, she's like, actually, I want my hair like flat ironed. And I was like,
Oh no.
well, the issue with that is that now that she has grease, oil, and like conditioner in her hair, and we can't rinse it out, I was like trying to explain, like, no, because this is gonna smell like burnt hair, and it's just gonna make your hair look like stuck together. You know how like anime hair is real spiky and like
Yeah.
clumpy? Essentially, that's what happens. Is it just like pushes the hair, but it doesn't look silky like you can touch it. You're just like hitting a mask. And she's like, yeah, it's fine. I was like, no, please, no, it's not.
I
Like,
mean,
I'm telling you,
she went 2 weeks without a hair wash. Clearly, it's fine to her.
dude, it like you as I was like hitting it with a flat iron, I knew it was gonna happen. Her hair is like smoking. So then the whole back of the store smelled like burnt, dead, oily hair. And I had like her hair is so thick, it took me probably 40 minutes to press it. So I was with this chick for like an hour and a half. And not only was I mad trying to get this to somewhat look decent, she kept asking me about different places in the world, but she kept saying like, I want to tell you fun facts. Do you like fun facts? No. It's like, no, not really at the moment. No. I was like, I guess you could tell me a fact or two. She's like, just name a country. And I would just like humor her. I was like, oh, Spain. And she would just tell me anything. She's like, okay, name me another one. And this went on for like, again, 30 minutes. I was like,
Oh my
just
gosh.
National Geographic. And at one point, I'm like, let me just name something random. So I was like, Norway. And she's like, well, I don't want to talk about Norway right now. So let's talk about Sweden. And it's like, I don't know what's happening.
What the hell?
Please. It was terrible. And so I was just sitting there like crying. And I would get like sympathetic looks from the other stylists that would like nod. I'm like, don't nod, come help me. Like,
I need another set of hands for this
oh my
beast.
gosh. And one of the girls, so we had a fan on like the top of the station, turned it on, but the fan didn't help. I guess it helped them, but it just kept blowing all the smoke back into my face. And I
Oh.
was like, this is why I don't work here.
I love that she just like presented you with like, well, let's pass the time with some fun. Fun facts, and then proceeds to not tell you a single fact and just dance around whatever place she told you to, like, oh my gosh.
It was like the most basic thing. So it was like, Spain has tomatoes. I was like, most places do, but all right. I was so confused.
Wow, what a fun fact.
I was like, dang, they do. They also have Spanish-speaking people. But it was just weird. There's just weird people. But my favorite, I think, is probably still like little kids. I because they're so hit or miss. Because sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, you are the cutest thing I've ever seen. I'm like, oh, you are a little tyrant. Because they're like, you watch the original Power Rangers? What are you, 40? I'm like, all right.
Damn, getting grilled by a kid.
Because I told you I almost like fist fought that kid who was like clearly 9 years old.
Yeah, I recall a story like that, but I don't quite remember all the details about it.
He had one of those like sleeves on. Just the athletic like compression sleeves.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He was like a baseball player, and I was like, oh, I've seen those in like basketball sometimes. He's like, this is only for baseball. And I was like, yeah, but I've seen it in other sports. And he was like, girls don't know anything about sports. And I was like, all right.
Dukes
and I'm
up.
like, he's screaming at this kid. I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, I could not care less about his mom. I was like, I've seen LeBron James wearing a sleeve. I had to pause the haircut. I was like, I need to go take a breather. That really wasn't that bad. It was just this kid was like, he's like, you know nothing of the NBA. And I'm like, all right. I was like, you play 2K and that's it. What about you? This has only been about me so far.
Well, so yeah, I mean, I can share a couple. Ooh, okay.
Oh.
This isn't retail, but I don't think you heard this one. And this one's like, I mean, I don't want to say recent because it's from like last November, but like you haven't heard it yet, I'm pretty sure. So, I'll tell one to preface this story, and then I'll tell the big one, I guess is what I'll call
Ooh,
it. Well,
okay.
they're both big ones, but so I used to work in produce department. This one you've probably heard, but I'm gonna tell it anyway. I used to work in produce department, and we had to at this point in time we had to wear like a dress shirt and a tie, and then an apron over it, and you'd have to tuck your shirt in. So I'm just like stocking this cooler, and taking stuff off the cart, doing a 180, putting it on the shelf, and it's just that over and over again, basically. And this like probably 70 something year old lady came up behind me, and instead of doing what any normal person would do, which is just speaking like excuse me or something, like to because she wanted help, or even tapping me on the shoulder or something, like I wouldn't like that myself because I'm just like, why are you a random person touching me? But even that's better than what she ended up doing, which is reaching her hand down the back of my pants and untucking my shirt. Like she didn't grope me or anything, but she like grabbed my shirt, and I was like, still, someone's in my pants and it ain't me. What's going on? So I remember physically like jumping, and like and at that point all like customer service was out the window because I'm like, you just violated rules. I could technically probably sue you for. So and she's just like in her like gruff elderly woman voice, just like, where are the baby carrots? and they're within eye shot. Like you can literally like, I turned like a little bit and it was just like, they're over there, like just like not caring anymore. and then she just left, and I'm just kind of like, okay, never experienced that, and hopefully never experience it again. So it was established that old women are apparently just real into me, like to the point where they're touching me in grocery stores, because it's happened like 2 times since then. Not to that degree, but it's happened like 2 times since then.
Man.
And the big one was I was just walking to the bank one day, right? So just picture, I'm just it's like 36, 37 degrees. It was supposed to snow, but because it's that warm, it's raining instead, very lightly. Walking down Main Street, no big deal. And like, I'm just looking around as you do if you're walking up, somewhere. You're not just gonna stare at the ground or stare at the sky the whole time. You're just gonna look around, like, oh, that's a nice house. Oh, look at that person's garden, kind of thing. But I had noticed that a lady had turned left like a block ahead of me. Well, and at that point, I'm like, oh, car's turning. Okay, that's all I processed. As I got closer, I had noticed that she had like pulled over on this street, and like I kind of like, I look and she's getting out of her car. I'm like, okay, whatever. I keep going. I look. Like the second time I look, she's old, getting out of her car, and she's like very slow about it. But like she keeps looking at me. And I'm like, what the like, why is she looking at me? I guess because I'm walking. I don't know. At this point, after like 2 or 3 like peeps over to her and she's still getting out of her car, I'm about to cross the street, and it's a 4-way intersection. But the way that I'm walking is like the busy way. So like basically like everyone who's going the perpendicular way like has to wait. So I do my checks. I'm like, I'm good to keep walking. Start walking, and like I get about a quarter away. Like I literally just got like onto the street, and she is like starting to walk up to me, like directly at me, beelining it for me. And I'm like, oh no, what's gonna happen here? And I get about halfway, and she stops me. And mind you, I'm stopped in the middle of a street in a 4-way intersection, and there's a dude in a truck on the other side, like waiting to go. I don't know the traffic situation, but either way, he's waiting to go. So he's seeing this happen. And this old lady, like, she's younger than the other one. She's probably like mid-60s or something. Still, like, I'm going to call her old lady. Hands me $60 in cash, and is just like, oh, you look so cute today. Like, here, you should have this. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? What is happening? Like, why am I being handed money from an old woman in the middle of an intersection? And I'm just walking. Like, I'm not doing it. Like, it's not like I'm like, I'm not like a male stripper. I'm not dressed like, I'm not half dressed. Like, what the hell is going on? Like, so she hands me that, and then like my reaction to her is just like, okay, thanks, and then I just fucking dart away. I'm like, get me out of here. So, like, in case you're wondering, I kept the money. I'm not gonna turn down $60, but like, what on earth just happened? So,
Was it laced?
I'm like, is she dumping? Like, did she get this money like through illegal means, and she's trying to just get rid of it? Like, what's going on here?
Like, you look like you could be arrested. There
Yeah.
you go. God, that's so weird.
And I'll even describe what I was wearing. I was just wearing khakis because I was like finished. I was finished with work, and I was just walking to the bank afterwards. I'm just wearing khakis and like the stereotypical like red black flannel, and then like a parka, like with like a fur hood, and that's it. I'm not dressed in any special way, and she's just like, oh, here you go. So another thing that ran through my head is I'm wondering, like, does she think I'm homeless? What's happening? Like that was like the first thing that came through my mind. Even though she said I looked cute, but I'm like, does she think I'm homeless? Does she think I'm destitute just because I'm walking and it's raining? Like, I don't get it. So, yeah, that's like the most recent ridiculous thing that's happened. So, fortunately, I've almost made it a year without another strange interaction. No, I take it back because I feel like 3 weeks later, in the store that I, hilariously enough, used to work produce in, I'm just like in the shampoo aisle, and I swear to God, it was the same lady, walks behind me and like runs her hand against my shoulder, like starts on one shoulder, and as she's walking by, it just like runs across to my other shoulder. And like I forget what she said. She said something, but it wasn't like obviously sexual or anything. But she said something like, or like maybe it was like, "Excuse me, dear." But I'm like, why the fuck are you touching me? And I swear it was the same lady. It had to be. So, yeah. Basically, don't let me in a nursing home. That's the point. Like, don't. If I'm anywhere within like a few blocks of a nursing home, they're gonna start coming out of their rooms and stuff, I guess.
You got a bunch of sugar grannies.
Yeah. That's right. I don't need a job. I have sugar grannies.
Like, I'll give you a piece of butterscotch if you pick up that remote.
Oh boy.
Dude, that reminds me, my favorite tip that I've ever gotten was back when I was in like beauty school.
Mm-hmm.
And I had like just finished like rolling this lady's hair all like nice and tight, whatever. We blew it out. And when we went to check out, she said, I ain't got extra money, but you look hungry. And she gave me a popcorn bag and like a fruit roll up.
Nice.
Score.
Score.
Like, score. Exactly. I was like, cool, I guess I got lunch for today.
A singular fruit roll up?
Just one. But it was like one of the like the SpongeBob ones that have like the tattoos on it. So I'm like sitting there with Patrick on my tongue. I'm just like, oh, I'm ready for my next client.
living the childhood dream with a SpongeBob tattoo on my tongue.
Living like Larry.
Yeah, that's what you'd say, living like Larry.
Dude, that like hurt my chest. All I could think about is like just the subtle harassment of older women.
Yeah. I honestly, like, of all the stories of things that have happened to me, it's like the best one because I always get a reaction. People either are laughing their ass off or they're just like shocked. They're like, "This actually happened." I'm like, "Yeah, this actually happened." So, but like, it's kind of like reflective to me because I'm like, is this what it feels like to be like a woman at all, and then just dudes just coming at you? Like, this has to be what it feels like. But in a different way, obviously. They're not always like handing you money necessarily, but like it's the same core feeling of like awkwardness and everything. It probably comes over in that situation, I'd imagine.
Closest I can get to that is like people just touch my hair. Just random people. And I was in like Kroger, like grocery store, and this like lady came up and was just like fluffing it around. Can I help you? She's like, how much are you selling that for? Like,
what?
It's like, I wasn't planning on it, but also business deal. How much are you willing to pay? But like my hair grows at like the level of molasses. It doesn't grow very long, but it's just like, and it's not even that thick. It's just curly, and people are like, oh, I could make a nice wig out of that. Like, please, ma'am, stop touching me. But Or like I had a kid in my science class way back in like 7th grade, and he would just like pull on the curls and just whisper boing every like 20 seconds. And it was like would send like shivers down my spine because I was like I couldn't focus on biology because some kid named Colin is just pulling on my hair.
Boing.
I know.
Really?
You're just like boing. And I was like, please stop it.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, no,
Oof.
I haven't had to mess with too much on the harassment side, but that's also because I think I give off a very threatening aura.
I think maybe that's good though.
Right, maybe. Or like I just like I'm so loud. It's just everything just disappears in front of me.
We'll move on, I guess, from stories, unless there's like a okay, I shouldn't say from stories because the next thing I have is different stories, and I was gonna say, do you have any ridiculous travel stories? Because I remember you told me you've gone places.
Yeah, I love traveling. International travel if I can do it. I'm trying to plan a trip next year actually too, if possible.
If
But
you can actually go, yeah.
if I can. But yeah, I've been to well, it's like Mexico, but that Mexico's like standard. But like England, Scotland. I went to South Korea last year. I was like,
That's
haven't told you about that yet?
that's the one that I think that I immediately thought of because I was like, that's like way further away.
Yeah, man, that flight was miserable. It was 14 hours. And so like we went to Detroit first for whatever reason, like, because we technically have an international airport, but it wasn't any direct flights. So we had to go there and then go 14 hours just straight through.
Dang.
It was rough. But and it was funny though, because you could tell like, oh, there's like Korean people on the plane that have done this before because they all brought like yoga mats. And
Oh, okay.
one of my aunts is a travel agent, so she put my mom in the like fire escape lane, so there's no seats in front of her. So like, cool, I'm 5'10", I can like stretch out, but like people kept kicking me because they would line up there to use the restroom, or I like looked up and it's because this lady is doing like downward facing dog just, like,
on the plane.
yeah, and I was like,
Oh
all
my
right,
gosh.
cool. Let me just try to go back to sleep. But we got there, and it was funny because when we were leaving, they're technically like 13 hours ahead of us. So when we were flying in, they were currently experiencing a typhoon.
Oh gosh.
All right, bet. So we get there and it's like kind of gray, but it was mid-September, so it's warmish. But it was like it wasn't terrible. But my mom, we're in like jeans and a t-shirt. And she's like, to hike up a mountain. I was like, are you in this attire? Like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah. It doesn't look like it's that high up, and it just had like these little wooden steps. I'm like, sure, fine. So it takes us like 2 miles to even get to the base of the mountain, and I'm like dying.
You're already
And
dead,
it's
yeah.
just like a straight 90-degree up. And by the time we get up to the top, the typhoon like kicks in again, and it's just like torrential downpour and high winds. It's like great.
While climbing a mountain.
Right, and then people were like yelling in Korean. I was like, can't translate that. But oh, it was really good. The food was amazing. The people were really cool. But like we just kept getting lost. And it was great because people would try to help us. Most people spoke English. Like the farther you got out of Seoul, you're like, you're just doing mock sign language and like trying to figure it out. But my favorite is there's this really sweet old man that was trying to like say that it was so nice to meet us, but like Google Translate was not working on his end. So he said he like wanted to give us like a warm hug, and it translated to like, I would love to like engulf your boobs. And I was like, wait, what? so like
Engulf.
Right, so we're like dying because we're like, what does this mean? And he's just like smiling and nodding. I was like, I'll let you take over. I'm gonna find somebody else. But he was like, and he kept trying to like retype it, and it just kept rewording the same phrase. And someone else came over and ended up being like, oh, he just has so much like heartfelt love. And I was like, got it. Good to know.
Yeah, that's what it meant.
I was just so lost. But it was, yeah, but like everyone, because my mom and I, we don't really look alike per se, but that's because she's like 5'2" and I'm 5'10" and mixed, and she's like your classic 90s looking kind of Karen with like the pixie cut and like a box suit. But we're like walking places like, this is my mom, and people are like, oh, no. And I was like, well, I guess she's not. But, and they were like, oh, you look Asian. I was like, I was like, even Koreans think I'm Asian now. It's like, I promise. So they like try to ask me stuff, and I'm like, I can't answer this question because you're not speaking English. But thanks for the food. They have some banger food over there.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
If you ever get a chance to try like soju, it's like a rice wine or rice vodka or whatever, but they like mix it into their beer, and it's really really good. But I don't know how many Korean stores you have where you are.
I mean, immediately 0 probably.
Oh,
Nearby, I don't know. I have no idea.
Oh, you know what? That just made me. So we because we were going to like a convention thing there, and we had like this like little name badges or whatever, and it was like saying kind of where you're from. But when people would ask, and I'd be like, oh, in Indiana, nobody knew. No one had a clue where it was, and because it was like just fly over. So then I would have to be like, kind of towards. All they knew was like Chicago, and I'm like, I mean, I guess it's over there.
It's
but if
east of Chicago.
Yeah. But if I say Indiana, they'd be like, oh, Indiana Jones. Yeah, that's me. Or the few people that knew it only knew it for like the Indy 500, so they'd be like, "Oh, vroom vroom." Like, yeah,
you got it.
We were trying to. They have this like little app that like kind of tells you how to use their subway system, because again, could not read or tell where we were going. It was just color coded. So it's like, hop on red, get off on green. And so we're like fighting over where we're supposed to hop off. And this guy kind of walks up and was like, English? And I was like, yeah. And he said, oh, he's like, American. And the next 20 minutes was this guy going, America is known for the flag. And we're like, okay. And he's like, America is known. And he just kept making the most basic. He's like, oh, America has corn. I was like, yeah. And we had to be like, hey. He's like, oh, America, Michael Jordan. I was like, we gotta just hop off.
So let's just take a stop and go.
Right. It is like everyone was telling us when we got to the hotel, they're like, be careful, get a VPN. North Korea could be listening. It's like I'm just watching Naked Jakey on YouTube. I don't think they care.
Yeah, there's nothing personal to take here.
Right. But yeah, the friends that we met up with, they're like, we're gonna go like fly fishing. And we're like, fly fishing? Cool. Sounds great. So again, we're in like jeans and a t-shirt, and my mom like misunderstood her and she said flying fish. And she takes us to this like water park. And so everybody's in swimsuits, and here's the 2 American people like fully decked out in jeans and like nice shoes. And they lay us down on this like flat bed. So it just looks like a regular floaty, but you hold on to it, and the speedboat takes off so fast that it makes you go like vertical. So then you're just like horizontally over the water.
Holy shit.
And I was like, oh, this is like kind of cool, but if you let go, then you're going to just like face plant into the water at like 60 miles an hour. But they just are like, hold on tight, and just floor it.
Holy
I was
cow.
like, why are we here? They're like, oh, we saw it on TV and wanted to try it. I'm like, wait. I was like, you've never been here? I think my favorite story, though, was from like, I was in Scotland, and it was like a school field trip. And technically, I was one of the oldest on the trip, but like 100% the dumbest person. And I was like walking around, like staring, talking to somebody, and I trip like dead in the middle of like Edinburgh Castle on one of the stairs. I just like tumbled down, destroy my knee, like cut everything up, and you just hear everybody like, oh. And this like old man walks over in like the thickest Scottish accent, and he's like the French people made it. It's a terrible road. Don't trust it. And then just like it doesn't help me up. Just kind of pats me on the back and keeps walking. I was like, oh, thanks. And like in the pubs over there, it's so funny because you're like, I can understand them. In 10 minutes past, you're like, I can't understand anyone. They're all gone.
Once the alcohol kicks in.
Well, they're just like, oh, take like they're like, it's a shot of Scotch. But they made it like it's 4 shots for 1 shot.
Oh
like,
my
sir,
god.
That looks painful.
I know you for puns and like just the comedic timing, right? Like that's like a big thing that I remember about you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, maybe more so the comedic timing, but then there's always a pun somewhere in there. and it's always masterfully done.
Even at like work, that's what I'll do is I love just like saying puns, messing with people 100%, or like making people laugh when people are trying to be serious. That's all I try to do. Like, let me ruin somebody else's day.
For my
Prank call.
enjoyment.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about me. I like every once in a while, for whatever reason, they still haven't put my number in for when I call the store, so it still just pops a random number, and I'll just be like prank calling all day in different accents, and you can just like tell people on the other side of the line are just like frustrated. But I'll get like a solid 45 seconds in, and I can tell you're about to cry. It's me.
I guess the main thing that I would have, I guess, asked for this was just like, do you know where you got like the puns and comedic timing from?
Probably my dad. All of like my dad's side of the family is just like the craziest people I've ever met. But more so just because they're so quick to roast someone. And it was also like, if you don't get your thought across on something, they're like, this conversation is moving fivefold. So everyone will just like throw a little zinger in. And my dad and I will be like cracking up over like nothing. And my mom will just be like sitting there and she's like, I want to. But yeah, it's like my dad for sure. I'll be like, if you're streaming something, I'll be like trying to type really fast on a joke because I'll be like lagging behind and like they're already on a different.
Oh
Send
yeah.
it anyway. But man, have I told you about
Person.
before? I feel like I have.
It doesn't ring any bells.
Man, I know you're trying to like move the stories along, but she used to babysit my brother and I, and we would like go over, and it was every once in a very often.
Mhm.
But I'd be like,
Person.
your DVDs don't have any labels. Why are they all black? And my brother like pops one in. He's like, why is Taken in Chinese? Like, there's a man in the front row. It's just all these like. She's like, let me explain what bootlegging is. And so we're like 5 years old. We're like, Dad, we watched a foreign film, but it was one of ours. But yeah, I think because there's so many people to make fun of in my family, like in a loving way.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like we've all gotten pretty good at being like able to give it and take it. So just like super sarcastic is more so what it is.
I guess we'll move to the what I'll call the final segment
Okay.
then, and that is the whole idea of the show, and that is I would like to hear you go on about something that is I guess it can be something that is very inspiring to you. Maybe it's a piece of art. Maybe it's a TV show. Right. I mean, whatever. I just want you to break down a thing that matters a lot to you.
Okay. I think more so than anything, because I love being creative, I just never take the time to actually put pen to paper.
Yeah.
But music is probably my number one inspiration for like anything. And like I used to, and this is back when I was probably maybe like second or third grade, and I would take my dad's first gen iPod and just like yoink that boy, just steal it, and I would be in my bedroom, supposed to be asleep, just listening to music. And ever since then, I have not been able to like go to sleep to this day without listening to at least like 30 minutes to an hour of music.
Really?
Or if, yeah, it's just become like habit. Like I have to listen to music, or I'll be like just sitting up all night. And it doesn't even matter like what I'm listening to. It could be like if you do like Dance Gavin Dance and like someone's just screaming in my ears, and I'm like, yeah, all right, this is calm.
Yeah. There's some funk here.
Yeah, I've always listened to it. Or I would try to make like music videos in my head, or I would take 3 or 4 songs and be like, how could I make like a piece out of these 4 different songs but continue a storyline with them? Just because that gets like the creative juices flowing. I never do anything with that, but it's always just been like, oh, that's fun. But if I'm like stressed about something, like cool, let me listen to this music. Or it's like, oh, this is music just to like sit and listen to, you know.
So you do prioritize depending on like what might be the vibe of the night?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or like John Bellion, we're both really big fans of him.
Oh yeah.
And just like I was like, all right, I've already listened to Guillotine 4,000 times, but here we go.
Here we go again.
Exactly. But like this is, I don't know if this is like a Midwestern thing to do too, but it was like I would just go in my car and be like, I feel like just driving for 30 minutes and just listen to music, and I would just not do anything and just drive around my town.
I think that is a Midwestern thing. It's
Yeah.
not a Midwestern thing that I've done, but it's a Midwestern thing that I feel like a lot of people have done.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, there's nothing better to do." But, there was I think it's an Eminem song, and it's Cinderella Man, but there's, like, a lyric in "Music is a time machine." And to this day, like, I can listen to songs and it'll be like, "Oh, I remember hearing this." There's, like, a Michael Jackson song, and it was, man, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I still remember going to preschool, and my dad would drive me, and we would listen to the same Michael Jackson song every single time. So, stuff like that, because it's something that is, like, grounded, you can connect to it, a lot of people can kinda connect to it, or, like, music over time, it could be the same song, but it hits you differently based on whatever you're going through.
Depending on like what you were listening to at a certain point. I can
Right.
definitely I definitely do the same thing as far as connecting it to points, significant points in throughout my life, you know.
Right. So it's like, you know how you have Blade Runner,
Yes,
2049.
yes.
It's the same thing. It's like sometimes like a song will hit me and I'm like, I don't know why. Nothing about it that's like seems that special, but like boom, I love that song. Or I'll get like chills if I listen to like really good lyrics that I like.
Oh yeah.
But it's just like stuff like that. So it's always been like a major part.
Yeah, I mean, because I would say, speaking of, I'll say John Bellion again. Like, yeah, there are
Mhm.
points with certain John Bellion songs that I would get chills and stuff. I'm like, damn,
Mhm.
like Money Right.
Yeah.
Money Right's like, yeah, that's like I think that was the first one that I was like, oh shit, like okay, this makes me
Mhm.
feel all kinds of weird.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, like, I used to back in my I don't know if I'm not gonna say emo days, but I would just, like I used to love writing, like, poems or, like, I would a lot of my comedic timing, I would make, like, parodies of things, or I would go out of my way for English classes if I didn't wanna write, like, a paper. I'd be like, "Oh, it's Dante's Inferno to the tune of Ice Ice Baby," just, like, stuff like that.
Whoa, whoa.
Yeah, I love doing stuff like that because, I mean, music is fun, and if or, my biggest thing is, like, I used to start stories, like, short stories, but I would always be in the middle. Like, I have no idea how we got to that point, I have no idea how it finishes, but I'm like, "Here's, like, a story in my head, I'm gonna continue and, like, add music to it." But, like, nothing ever really came from it, it's just more of, like, a side thing, but
Dang. You have you got to put some of this to paper sometime.
see, I have, like, so much I'm a jack of all trade, master of none, just, like, so much ambition, but, I don't know how to get the ball rolling. But yeah, no, I just love the idea of like or, not necessarily as much anymore, but like some of the Bastille songs, I'm like, "Cool, this could be like
Mm.
really good storytelling." And if I like mix it with something from John Billion and throw in a little bit of this person and this person, then you could make this whole tale and play it out like a movie, but it would just be like, "Well, what am I gonna do with that?"
Yeah, yeah. Well, I
Yeah,
mean, besides the fact that it's like copyrighted material,
exactly, yeah.
but even still, yeah.
Right. It's just really good, but, like, for dreaming especially, because I can't, like, lucid dream, but if I know what I wanna dream about, I can. So, especially with, like, music, if I could think about a story with, like, whatever music I'm listening to, I'm like, "Cool, that's a good idea for a dream," and I'll just, like, turn my bed and think about that.
That's insane to me. I can't
But
even
it
imagine, like, cause like half the time I'll like my nightly routine is like, all right, I'm gonna lay in
Mhm.
bed, I'm gonna watch YouTube, and half the time I fall asleep during like I'll start the video and then I'll fall asleep like 5 minutes in, cause then I'll wake up the next day and I'll like look at yeah, I'll look at my phone. I guess
Mhm.
when I say fall asleep halfway through, it's like I fell asleep, but then I woke up like 10 minutes in, and then I'm like, all right, just put the
Right,
phone down and go to sleep, like for real, and then I just fall back
right,
asleep. But like it's like I needed that to like put me there for some
right.
reason. But yeah, so like half the time the things I watch, I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to start that from the beginning tomorrow. So, but yeah, so you can just listen to like anything
Yeah.
and just be like, I'm
So,
gonna
like,
dream about that.
there's, oh my gosh, it's a song well, I guess it's, Savant has, like, a song called, like, Innocence or whatever, and it's just, like 8-bit kinda music
Hmm.
sounding, but because it's just like the music, I'm like, "Cool, this sounds like happy-go-lucky, so, like, what would I be doing with this?" Or, like, "Would I be here, or would I be in, like, a park? Would I be with this person or whatever?" And then I'm like, "Cool, that would be a cool dream," and then just go. But I used to do like, when I was really into the lucid dreaming thing, I would, like, take notes because
Hmm.
that's, like, one of the number one ways to get into it, and so if I would be, like, going to bed, I would start, like, a story or whatever, and I would wake up, and I always like, even now because most people, I think, when you're kind of waking up, you can still kind of catch the last couple minutes of whatever you might have been dreaming.
Yeah.
And so I would try to do continued story. So if I would wake up and I'm like, this is where I was, I'm like, cool. How do I like pick off from there? And then I would listen to music and be like, this would create a story. Cool. Go back to bed and then pick it up.
Yeah, it's like you're doing like, say, the process of making a movie. You're doing the writing and like all the screenplay and everything, and then when you go to sleep, it's just like you watching a version of the film.
And
That's crazy.
I remember because I talked about this with my brother and some of my friends. It's like, do you dream in first person or like third person? And it's like, I kind of do a bit of both, because there's sometimes where it's like, oh, if it's me talking to someone, or if I want to be in a situation, if I want to be somewhere, like it's almost like outer body. So I'm like, cool, I'm walking down the stairs, but I see me doing it. Like you're looking in a mirror.
Oh,
so I'm like, cool. But it's never like the front of my face. It's always like, oh, there's just like the back of me is going to do this, like third person, like I'm in like GTA walking down the street. But it's like depending on what I'm trying to do, I'm like, oh, now I'm like looking at this person, or this is me totally fighting this person, but like I'm watching it happen, which is, it's all like really jumbled. But because I really love like movies and screenplays and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
And like the directing side, or like enjoying how something is shot. So the same thing with like music, because when people like, you can tell in movies when music really connects with what's happening. And that's kind of like my inspiration for things. Which was a very long-winded way to say what I want to say. But
Yeah, well, that's what I want, though. That you gave me a wonderful answer.
It's one of those things where it's, because things are so mundane right now, music and kind of, through film or through like videos or how things are shot, I was like, cool, that's like your escape of like, you can literally do, especially with a dream, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Versus like, oh, I'm reliving myself, falling and catching this kid's head back at work the other day, like...
Only this time in the dream, I'm stabbing him with the scissors.
I know.
And then it's a horror movie directed by Alfred Hitchcock.
Right? Yeah. Like, it's shot like a Wes Anderson. No. Well, it's like, I don't know if I have journals anymore, but I definitely have like a dream that I have at least, and this is going to sound whack and people can try to like call me out on it, but I've like definitely had a dream that I've continued for a few years. And it's more so just, it's either it's something that I've continued more than a few years, or I keep tweaking it.
Yeah.
Which is like
redream it kind of thing.
Yeah. But like change how things happen. Because it's like, all right, this is always like the same premise, but now I'm going to change this, this, and this. Or it's like, oh, but now it's like, sometimes it's like, you can't control everything. I'm like, oh, this, you know what? All right, let's work with that.
Yeah.
But like the Tenet, like the movie that just came out, I've been like adding stuff from that. I'm like, that's a cool idea. Or like, how would I tweak this? I'm like, cool, let's put me here and we'll pause this and start something new. But yeah, I love stuff like that.
I will not call you out on that, because like the fact that you can even do that is crazy to me. Like I literally, I can't say I've ever heard that. I mean, like, okay, I guess it's because I've never really delved into like the whole like lucid dream, like mythos. I'll just say mythos. That's not the right word, but
most times when you hear about lucid dreaming, it's people that are just, I dream that I am here and that I am doing that I say that I want to do.
Yeah, like I am feeling my dream.
Yeah, I was like, which is like not what I can do. I can just like put myself in a scenario, and then sometimes it's just like, all right, whatever takes place takes place. And if I don't like that, now I need to like think in my head and like listen to something like music that's going to trigger like my brain to start thinking like a certain thing. Then I'll do it. So like if there's like, if I know that I want to dream about like something like kind of actiony, then I'll definitely listen to like some hype music before going to bed, which sounds counterintuitive, but I'm like, cool, this gets like the thought process going. But it's just like, because I've been doing it 20 plus years.
Yeah.
It's just kind of how my brain works. But like, it's so funny. If I don't listen to music in bed, I get like the worst sleep known to man.
Is there any way you think that would be teachable to anyone?
I mean, like, for sure, because half of it is just, I mean, like, it's annoying doing like the writing thing, but like once you get used to it, or just like the kind of, they always say like when you wake up, write down what you dreamed of.
Yeah.
At this point, for me, I don't necessarily have to, because it's kind of like it's just how
that's
works
just
now.
Your routine, yeah. Because
it's a routine.
My routine is just wake up, slap my alarm, and then get up and start doing things. So yeah, I mean, I would have to probably step over that step half the time.
Or like, even if I'm like, man, I woke up, let's go back to that, go back out. But I mean, for me, because you're pretty big into music anyway, so if you want to kind of do it that route too, it's just listen to music and like it's as corny as it sounds, you kind of like feel as the music flows, or like try to make like what could I do, like what scene could I make with this music? Would this music be in a movie? It was in a movie. And you can make so many things. And once you start stringing songs together, which I think is a lot of fun to do, if anyone ever has the chance to do that, just take 4 random songs and make a movie scene out of it. You know, it's really neat.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
And so, maybe here and there I'll try it, and I'll, instead of falling asleep halfway through a YouTube video, I'll just do that instead. Sit there with a notebook at the ready.
Right. You're into like video editing and stuff. So it's like now take your passion of music and video editing and try to do the same thing. I know it sounds making it sound way easier than it is.
I need to boot up the Sony Vegas in my head and hope that it doesn't crash like my actual Sony Vegas does all the time.
Oh, that's miserable.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there you go. Just pick like a John Bellion song that you and just write down video ideas. And that's kind of a good start to be like, cool. Now where would I put myself in that? You know. Or you don't even have to be in your own dream.
Yeah, I could be dreaming of somebody else for
exactly. Yeah,
I could just make a movie scene without me in it. Yeah.
Yeah, and if it becomes like Inception with things falling apart, so but
just stop the simulation.
Right there you go. Just wipe it clean. Yeah, but thanks for having me. This was a party.
Yeah,
especially because it's been a year and a half.
Well, yeah, it's probably been at least a year and a half since I even spoken to you.
But yeah, thanks again. This was fun.
Yeah, thanks for being on. We out.
You're welcome. Bye.
Wow, what a fun time as always hanging out with Mickey. If you like, be sure to check out her Twitter at MickeyD_. Should be on screen. Stay tuned for episode 3. Should be coming relatively soon. Stay updated on Twitter at the number 3 Pillars Cast. And I guess if you have any good ideas or requests to be on the show, email me at 3pillarscast@gmail.com. Thanks for hanging out. Peace.
Who needs a medical license when you got style?